Welcome back to the Start, Build and Grow podcast. Today's episode is a bit different because I'm sitting down with the person who makes all this possible. Ryan Hutchin is the founder of the Lighthouse Podcast Studio, the place that I record this exact podcast. He's built a space that removes the friction from podcasting, no faff, no overcomplication, just turn up, sit down and talk. Today we're getting into why podcasting studios are becoming a thing, how creators actually mess this up, the businesses behind running a studio, and where Ryan sees this all going. Let's get into it.
Pleasure to be here. Long journey for me.
Long journey. 2 feet
Yeah.
from the desk.
Yeah.
So Ryan, for people who don't know you, who you are and what the Lighthouse Podcast Studio is, tell me about it.
So obviously I'm Ryan. You've introduced me very well there. I am a podcast producer / videographer / audio engineer. They all kind of roll into one these days, don't they? Owner of this very space, producer of multiple podcasts and audiobooks and, well, video podcasts and audio podcasts, audiobooks, coursework, believe it or not, we've had in stuff like that. Yeah, that's the thing, because I know you've got a question later. I had a little peruse of what you had ready for me, and I kind of went into this, like, I've always been quite tunnel visioned. Like, I've always, like, I've had an idea, like, that's what I'm doing. So because I was doing, like, podcasts as a hobby for a couple of years beforehand, I was like, oh, maybe I can do this for other people, right? And then, like, months into it, people would then message my website or email me or etc. and be like, can you do this? Can you do this? And I would kind of freak out a little bit when it wasn't podcast. But then I was like, wait a minute. If someone's wanting like an audiobook done, or, you know, I think there was one where someone wanted to come in and like record, they were like a coach or something, and record just like a talking head video. I'm like, there's not that much different to what I'm doing. It's just like, you know, under a different title, right? There's still audio, there's still video, there's still lighting and all that type of stuff. So it's kind of, if I was to go back, I would maybe have called it content creation studio or whatever. But yeah, so it started out mainly from my point of view thinking it was going to be podcasts alone. But as is anything in life, you have one idea of how it's going to go and then branches. So yeah.
It makes sense. I was actually going to come at that topic next about why a podcast studio and why not just content creation or media in general. But I guess you've kind of covered that you don't just do podcasts or audiobooks, you also do like coursework or I guess talking head videos.
Absolutely. And it's something that like I probably need to update. I've got it on like my social media and stuff like that and like graphics that I've put out, but I remember seeing something that you put up on LinkedIn where like your website's like your first impression or something like that. Yeah. And I haven't put it on there yet. And that's something that, because I've been upgrading the cameras and lighting and studio space and that, I do get sidetracked with stuff like that and neglect that side of things. So I think probably as we're coming into a new year soon, that will be something that I definitely have to turn my focus to, because it is something that is just as popular, which is kind of surprising to me, but at the same time not. Like, for example, I've got like a regular now once a year in October from the National Trust of Scotland that come in and do like a poem for like it's a illumination event. You ever heard of this? Like they have like Christmas lights and stuff. Yeah. And they record a poem and they play it through like a speaker, like telling a story. So they come in here.
So they come in here to record that. Yeah, that's good. It's a good idea. Yeah, your website is 9 times out of 10 your first impression. It's like a handshake, so it needs to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, I mean, I'm not going to get a previous experience of running a business or anything, so I went into this kind of blind in a lot of sense, right? I kind of took a set of skills and went head first into it. Yeah. Which I don't know if is like the correct way to go into business.
I think it's the way we all kind of do it.
Yeah,
to be honest.
Think so. So like, I mean, what is life if there's not learning to be had, right?
This is it.
So
this is it. So when starting the podcast studio, what problem were you trying to solve?
Well, I remember because I did my own podcast, which is you've actually been on, so I'm returning the favor today, but which has kind of died a slow death recently in the recent years, unfortunately. But I was doing that pretty consistently, and me and one of my co-hosts that did it pretty regularly back in the day went and interviewed a personal trainer, and this was before I kind of thought about lighting and manual focus and like. Back in the day, it was, I kind of begrudge myself now, because when I was doing it myself, it was like autofocus, presets on the Rodecaster. I wasn't thinking about EQing it. I was like, how do I get this recorded? How do I get this looking somewhat nice and then getting out? Now, there's like 85 more steps before it like comes to getting it up on like platforms now.
Yeah.
But, we went through, and I just know she had like a pretty simple ring light, and I remember the camera shot on her looked fantastic because it was like the first time that like any kind of professional-ish lighting had been used with like, you know, these cameras that I had at the time and stuff. But she mentioned, she was like, oh, you know, I've always wanted to start a podcast and stuff like that, but I never know where to go or how to begin, right? And that kind of clicked in the back of my mind because I'd actually just made a documentary film at that time and I was kind of off the back of that. And I was thinking, well, I could solve that problem. And then I think I put a survey. Are you familiar with SurveyMonkey? Do you remember that?
Not really.
So it's basically like a online survey.
Oh, okay.
And I threw that up and I put it in a few local business pages, not really expecting that much of a response, and got a lot more of a response than I anticipated. And I'm someone that has been quite indecisive in their life, right?
Yeah.
So I took maybe about a month and a half thinking of every reason why I couldn't do this, right?
Exactly.
And not focus on why I could.
Yeah.
And I used to be like a big fight fan, right? And one of the local UFCs, one of the UFC events that was happening, and I was a big fan of this guy called Israel Adesanya, right? He was a kickboxer, and he was fighting Alex Pereira, a guy that had like beat him like 3 times, and this was like the 4th fight, and everyone was like saying, you know, Alex is gonna like piece him up in that again. Anyway, long story short, I stayed up to like 5 a.m. to watch this event because it was in Miami, so time difference and all that. And Israel Adesanya absolutely cleaned this guy's clock in like one of the coldest knockouts I've ever seen, right? Now, as I'm like high on energy drinks and stuff like that, watching this, like, you know, feeling like that accomplishment had something to do with me, like the energy that I was showing, right? Israel looked down the camera and he said something along the lines of, I wish everyone at home and everyone in this arena could feel the happiness that I'm feeling right now, just one time in your life. But you'll never feel this happiness unless you go for something. And because it was like the point of view was like looking down the camera, like I'm not trying to make myself sound precious or anything, but it felt like
he was talking to you.
He was talking to me, right? And it was at a time where I was like thinking of all these reasons of why this is ridiculous. Why would I? Who's going to buy from me, etc. And I was like, life's all about taking risks sometimes, right?
100%.
What's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work out. I'll reset if that happens. And
I've got
here we
a
are.
tattoo on my arm. It says "No risk, no story."
Absolutely,
Yeah. It's the only tattoo I've got. But it's so true. Like if you don't take the risk, then what are you actually living for?
Yeah, and I think like a lot of people play it safe, right? And I understand that because safety's comfort. And comfort's like a thing that, well, safety in general is something that humans need, right?
Yeah.
And I remember working in an office, and I did enjoy that job, but there were just parts of it that frustrated me to high heaven. Like to kind of give context to that, like we assisted young people with barriers to employment, which I never really liked that title. I find it kind of condescending.
Yeah.
But I really like that job, like working with young people, like helping them find something that they want to do, right? Helping or find a path at least, right? If someone wanted to be mechanical engineer, it's not going to be like how do you get from here to mechanical engineering next year? Like, do you go college? Do you go open university? Do you get a placement and then build experience that way? Like, there's more than one way to skin a cat and getting into the industries. But for me, it just felt like there was a lot of like obstacles and red tape and, you know, how do we get claims and success stories? And I just got disillusioned by it. And then that job came to a mutual end, let's just say. And I ended up working on a documentary film, which was really enjoyable with a few filmmaking friends. And then takes us up to this kind of crossroads in my life where I was at college for a little bit, training to become a counsellor, but I kind of left that prematurely once I seen Israel speak to me through the TV, and I was like, this is what I need to do. So your comfort zone is where your dreams will die. Absolutely. And I think it's about putting yourself out there as well, isn't it? Like,
well, I mean, this podcast for me, for example, like I thought about this probably a lot more than I should have. Instead I should have just done it. I still done it, but it's scary sometimes to jump into something so new and not knowing whether or not it's going to work.
100%. And I think like it's the fear of the unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then if you kind of flesh that out a little bit, is anything guaranteed in life? Probably not, right?
The only thing guaranteed in life is death.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And you never know what that's going to be. I'm not trying to get too dark or
anything. Yeah, of course, but it's true.
Hopefully we've still got like a good 40 years left of the planet, or 40, 50, 60, you know.
Maybe a bit more for me.
Yeah, but like I just remember like something like I doubt myself all the time, and I think a lot of people do. Like, you know,
it's human nature.
Yeah, it's human nature, but I remember being at a funeral for like a relative at the start of the year, and like I'd asked a pallbearer, where you lower the coffin and stuff like that, and never done anything like that before. And I remember like as like this event was taking place when I was doing this and that, aside from like worrying like I hope I don't mess this up because this is a big deal, but I was like, it showed you the fragility of life, right?
It does.
And it kind of made me think, we do only get so long on this planet. I don't want to leave it without at least finding out, right? I'm not,
I'd hate to be like 70 years old and be like, what if I just took that risk?
Yeah.
What if I started that podcast?
Yeah.
What if I took over that business? These sort of things. I would just hate to get to that age where I can't actually do it, but I want to more than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we try and play life so safely. There's no point. We're all going to die, and it's guaranteed.
Yeah.
So just go for your dreams, really.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose like inadvertently I've been a little bit of a risk taker about life as well. Like, I hear you talk about on your podcast, and well, when we've spoke outside of that as well, about like, getting no qualifications and stuff like that. Same with me, right? Like, as someone that is diagnosed autistic and is on this never-ending waiting list of potentially being diagnosed with ADHD, school and that recipe doesn't usually go well together.
Certainly doesn't.
So, like, I suppose in a way, I remember when I was like a teenager and that, I kind of thought to myself, like, what am I going to do? And I remember being in loads of like jobs, like retail and stuff. And I would last like minimal amount of time. I would get sacked for all sorts of ridiculous
I've had that as well.
Yeah.
Like, I just couldn't hold a job down. Even holding my own business down at times was tough.
Yeah.
But I know that it's mine, and like, if I need to go and take a break and go for a walk, I can.
Absolutely,
I'm not going to get sacked for it,
You can't underestimate that amount of freedom, right?
I know. And I think we take it for granted sometimes. Because if you had a job, like, you would have to be so regimented in what you're doing. You can't just go out for a walk.
Oh my God.
Because you're a bit upset.
Yeah, well, there was times on like Friday in the office where no one was in. So we were literally like getting paid to sit in the office and look at the clock go by. And I remember being younger thinking, how great would it be to be paid to be bored? Right, I thought that was like a dream until it actually happened, and I was like, "This is a nightmare." Like, I need to go like take a half an hour lunch break or something right now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it is like 9:30 in the morning. So yeah,
I hear you. So let's move on from the depressing topics that we've.
Yeah, of course. I apologize.
No, don't apologize. It was me as well. We've spiraled down that way. I want to talk about the real reason that podcasts fail, because a lot of people start them, and I think you said before, if you make 7 episodes, you're doing.
I think you're in like the top 85 to 90%, something like that. Yeah.
So I'm definitely keen to talk about how people fail and how to, well, not fail if the people at home are thinking of starting a podcast. So obviously you see a lot of podcasters coming through the studio. What do most people get wrong?
I think people overthink it. Now, I think that's a very kind of broad, kind of general answer. I mean, I could come out and say, like, have a plan before starting and stuff like that. And some people will, and that's great. Like yourself, you've got like a pretty evident kind of purpose behind what you're doing with this, with it being about business, surrounding business, whether it's yours or learning about others, etc.
But it's funny because I often feel like I really don't know what I'm doing here, and I've not got enough of a plan in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think everyone, again, has that kind of inner insecurity that they don't, like, have, What I try to say to people when they first come in is, like, don't pretend that there's like 10 million people listening, because there's not. Because I see so many people come in and be like, hello and welcome, and it's like, is that really you? Are you trying to be a radio broadcaster? Because you're maybe not a radio broadcaster.
Yeah, referring to me here.
No, but like, I've just seen it over and over again. Like, there was one of the guys that I work with used to work for the Northern Scot. So I guess it kind of makes a little bit more sense because he worked for like a media kind of company, right? And you're probably tutored into that, presenting kind of persona. But when I hear people do that I know are feeling like they need to do that, I'm like, people gravitate to authenticity, don't they?
Of course.
Right? And I think as uncomfortable as it is, I encourage people to keep like stuff like mistakes or, pauses or anything.
I do
like
it
that
all the time now because I realize, like, someone that's listening to a podcast doesn't want something that's over polished. They want to hear a conversation between two people chatting about a topic they're interested in.
Absolutely. And even for yourself, like, think about when your podcast hits like it's episode 7 today, is it? So congratulations, you're officially in the top 85 to 90%. But like, think when it gets like episode 30, 35, then look back at episode 3 And you'll see a totally different
Of course.
person, right? You'll
Even
see
looking
that
back at
growth.
the first 2 episodes,
Yeah,
there's
completely.
so much difference.
Yeah, so I think you just have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable.
I think there's 2 sides to this, though, because when I used to do YouTube videos and I followed like Mr. Beast rule of make 100 videos and then you'll be better, which is obvious, but it's just a good sort of number to focus on. I get better at the podcasts as I go on, but the people I'm interviewing don't, because 9 times out of 10 it's their first
time
podcast,
over and over again.
it's
Yeah,
gonna always be their first time,
Mhm.
because I'm not going to invite the same people on, because it's not the point in it.
yeah.
So then it makes me think maybe I should do some episodes on my own. It's something I've thought about, but like, what the hell am I going to speak about?
But like that's with anything new, right? Like that's the same reason that you're maybe hesitant to do that is the same reason that people are hesitant when they first come in here
To
as
start in the
guests,
first place,
right?
yeah.
So, and I think as well, like you build a bit of a reputation as a brand the more that you do this from people that are watching you, right? Like one of the guys that like comes in here, like he started just speaking to his mates. That was literally it. So like there wasn't really a plan, and now to the point of where like his podcast is centered around well, not football journalism, but like interviewing like football legends from the local area and further afield. And he's like had the last person to captain this country at the World Cup in since then, and he's been going for like a year and a half or something. Do you know what I mean? And I can remember first time we had a notable name on him, absolutely looking like his his backside was about to fall out, but he got through, and then and I always say I always have this conversation with him. Like people refer to him as his name, which might sound like a simple kind of miscellaneous thing, but I think that's really powerful because if you see like any kind of notable person, whether it's a sports person or a business person or whatever, when they do an interview and I'm not specifically saying the Northern Scot or the Press and Journal, I'm just using them as local examples, but any media outlet, it almost, I don't want to say it feels robotic, but it feels like it's something that like you go through the motions with, right? Whereas like something like this, I think you get to be a lot more kind of personable with it. And when I heard like people that are of note calling him by his name, it makes me realize they're watching what he does. They're aware of what he does. He's gained respect from what he's done previously to people taking notice of that, people that are actually, growing his network from even being associated with him, or, a lot of these people end up asking him out for a beer and stuff like that, which is a bit overwhelming to him. Like,
Yeah.
but it just shows I'm all about the little things.
Yeah.
You take notice of that and you start realizing I belong here. I belong in this environment. I'm good at this and I'm good at what I do. And it's not through luck. It's not through any kind of God-given ability. It's because I kept showing up. And
You showed up where others wouldn't.
yeah, and found his voice, right? And I think everyone's got to do that. Like that's why I wouldn't necessarily say if you don't have a plan, don't let that deter you from coming in. Because sometimes people find their voice whilst doing the activity. Do you know what I mean? So it's like, but
People want all these things like a great life or status or a booming business or a growing podcast, but they're not willing to actually put in the work that it would take.
Absolutely, and like that work in time is going to have ups and downs. It's not all going to be plain sailing, right?
Of course not.
So I think especially in today's kind of attention economy and social media age and stuff, I think a lot of people like we see people like further along in their journey. We want that now.
Yeah, and we compare ourselves. We compare our day 1 to their day 100.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've made the 100 videos. We've not.
Yeah. That's why I think it's cool, like, when there is, like, notable people that put up, like, bad days on social media, because I think it's refreshing to see.
That's it. I think on all social media and online, you need to be authentic.
Yeah.
You can't just pretend that everything is all perfect.
I
Because
think
that is not real life.
For long-term consistency, yeah. Like, anyone can gain 3 months of really exceptional fame from, like, one video and that. But, like, you see those people kind of fizzle out in the end, you know what I mean? Where, like just off the cuff of like someone doing something random and they're trying to repeat that over and over again and just so yeah,
it's kind of what I done with the mountain bike and stuff. I'd post like one video and it did blow up. I got like 7,000 followers, 4 million views, and I just tried to repeat that thing, which is a good trick for like growing an audience or growing a business. It's not authentic.
No, it's like a dopamine hit though, isn't it? Yeah
For me and for the people watching it, because it was just utter nonsense.
I mean,
just funny stuff.
That is the challenge, isn't it? Because whether we like to admit it or not, getting likes on social media or whatever feels good. Like I used to, even from a personal point of view, sometimes I don't look at my social media on my birthday because I like when I was younger, I would actually check for people that wish me happy. And I'm like, what am I doing? Do you know what I mean?
It's weird.
Do you know what I mean? So like, I don't really have social media personally. I have like 1 or 2, but for obviously the business, I have more, which again, I need to find a better balance. This is one of the things that I need to grow with. I need to find a better balance of not conflating the two, where like I'm doing social media for business and associating that with me being on social media in general. 'Cause
Yeah.
me like actually trying to like market or brand or whatever kind of activity that you could do on there is not the same as like scrolling through.
Of course.
you know,
You're
Instagram or
becoming a
whatever.
creator as opposed to a consumer. And I hate social media, funnily enough, doing a podcast, but I hate watching it. I think it ruins our mentality. It ruins our drive. It makes us constantly compare ourselves to other people when we don't need to. And I think something that a lot of business owners get wrong is they get hung up on the idea that they need loads of likes, but they don't. Because if I post a video today of a cat falling off a couch, people would find that funny,
Yeah.
and it would probably get like 1 million views. None of those people are going to buy from me.
No.
Because they don't know what I'm doing, and they're not interested. They're interested in the cat, not the web design, not the podcast, just the cat. So I think it's more important to post something that is directly explaining who you are and what you do and targeting it to a specific audience. Whether or not that audience is big doesn't matter, as long as they're going to buy from you at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like when people can get like downbeat when like it's like, oh, I've only got 500 views on my video. That's 500 people. It's 500.
If you saw 500 people in real life,
Yeah.
you would be like beside yourself trying to speak to that many people.
Yeah, and what's the most valuable currency on earth? Time, because you can't recycle it.
Exactly.
So 500 people have taken an hour out of their day
To listen
to listen
you.
or watch or whatever it is,
crazy.
you know. Especially if they listen to like a full thing that's maybe 45 minutes, an hour long. It's a long
is.
chunk of the day, isn't it? You know?
But again, we compare ourselves and we look at someone much bigger in the podcast game, Alex or Mosey or Chris Williamson, whatever, Stephen Bartlett, and we look at them getting millions of views, and we look at our 100 views and think, oh, I'm doing bad.
Yeah, and I think people don't like take into account with like obviously the three that you mentioned have all done very well, but a lot of them like have already got a foundation of what they've doing before starting something like a podcast,
And
or
they
like
still
a
started
brand.
somewhere.
Yeah,
They've just
exactly.
shown up every day.
Yeah, you know,
And
like,
people think that these people have like luck or they have something they don't or they were born into it. They were 100% not. Like
Yeah.
a lot of them grew up in like council estates.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, like Stephen Bartlett's probably the most popular one at the moment. I would say,
Yeah,
like,
podcast
yeah,
wise,
like,
yeah.
I don't, there's actually on the rare moment of weakness that I was scrolling through social media of like I came across his editor. Like
Okay.
he was showing like what it goes into like creating like shorts for the Diary of a CEO and stuff, and he's up at like 12 at night. And because the thing about Stephen and that is the guys that they're paying to edit for them are solely like a production team for them, right?
them.
So like the turnaround is, you know what I mean? It's not like we need a day delay. It's like, how do we get this interview out with, you know, whoever it may be to getting it, like, whether, because I think a lot of people with me, like they'll want the episode released first and then they'll want the short form which is like, it's low hanging fruit, but it is like a really effective strategy for getting eyes on what you're doing, whether that's local or further afield. You know, it's kind of up to interpretation. I do think with TikTok, like sometimes if you're just trying to like market to local companies or market, like it is a bit redundant, right? Because you might get 40,000 views on a TikTok short, but how many of them are from Murray? You know, like you said, who's going to buy from you out of that, right?
That's
A
it,
lot of the
yeah.
time, which it might, because you're a web designer, so it doesn't necessarily have to be
In
someone
Murray.
from the
No,
local
of
area.
course,
But
yeah.
like, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I think the short form content for sure has definitely changed to the point where, because podcasts started out as radio, basically. They started out as audio. There was no cinema cameras and all
Yeah.
the kind of like over the top stuff that I've went with. But like now with the whole short format stuff, people all like I've seen Rode, which are a microphone company, and they do stuff like mixers and all this, you know, audio company, and they talk a lot about podcasts and stuff. And they had a bit of a roundtable thing where, you know, a few creators were talking about, do you think that video is mandatory now in podcasts and stuff? And they pretty much said, yeah. I think one of the ladies even said, even if your podcast's audio, I would still set up cameras so you can make clips to link to the audio stuff. Do you know
The
what I
clips
mean?
are so important.
It is, yeah. There's no...
I need to actually do it a lot more than I'm doing. Yeah.
Yeah, but like at the end of the day, we all have strengths and weaknesses in this game, right?
Yeah.
And it's good though, because it's stuff that we can improve on.
Of course.
So I think it keeps it fresh. And if everything was figured out, there would be nothing to do.
Be no reason to wake up.
Yeah. We're going back dark again.
We are. On that note, my next question is, why do so many podcasts die after that, like 5 to 10 episode period?
Because people like the idea of it rather than actually doing it. And what I mean by that is, like, just like you were saying there with what we see on social media and that, people like the idea of a podcast because they're like, oh, great, I'll be talking to people. But they don't, you've probably found it yourself, right? Like, not trying to put anyone on blast, but you've had quite a few cancellations recently for like guests and stuff like that. Now, that is
soul destroying.
It can be, right? Because like a lot goes into just even getting this, in terms of just getting in here and then the recording before.
Well, yeah, because I have to like speak with you, make sure the time works for you. After then, speak with them, make sure the time works for them. Then look at my own calendar, make sure it's going to work for me, and make sure I don't allow any meetings in that time or any other form of work. Yeah, it's and then you just go and cancel. Like man. But I guess it is the nature of the beast. Yeah,
but what I'm trying to get across is there's a lot of variables that people don't probably think to begin with. Like I shared someone on LinkedIn recently, and I think you've seen it as well. With it was a meme basically about it's just this 30-second clip, bro. Like, can you get it to me tomorrow? Like, it's just a simple edit, and then there's like all these layers, like graphics and subtitles, and
people just don't understand. It goes back to that thing, like people don't understand how much work it takes to get something. Like they look at these people who have got the supercars or the nice house or whatever, and they just think, oh, I could get that if I just do this, and this. Yeah, but it's going to be so much harder than you thought, and it's going to take so much longer than you ever thought it would.
Yeah, and I think as well, like there is no guarantees. If people set out thinking I'm going to get 100,000 subscribers within a year, I'd probably respond to them, how realistic is that? Yeah. And I don't want to like put anyone's dreams or goals down, because I think it's good to be ambitious. But at the end of the day, like if you don't get anywhere near that, don't let that put you off.
Yeah. And this is what people do. Yeah. They let it put them off.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like
you can get 100,000 subscribers, just probably not in the first year.
Absolutely. And think about the amount of like people that have got 30, 40,000 subscribers, which would still be classed as a smaller channel.
That's huge.
They then make it work.
Yeah.
And like, how long does it took them to get there? You know, like I've seen ones with 50,000 subscribers, but like maybe 2,000 videos. And I admire that, because like there was a point in time where that was 500 at maybe 70 videos or 1,000 at 200 videos, but they never got deterred from it, right? Yeah. So like, and I think as well, like, when I have new people come in, like obviously I'm approachable for any advice, for any, because everything matters to what you clip out of your podcast to what time that you upload it. Yeah, it all matters, right? Like we are living in a attention freeway, and there's busy periods and there's off seasons and stuff like that, especially, Christmas coming up.
Yeah, of course.
There's going to be more people that are socializing in person rather than being
on the phone
and stuff like that. So like you just have to be aware of all that. And I try to say to people, and I said this to you before we actually came on today, I find that my motivation goes up when there's equal motivation on the person that's creating, because I can provide the service that maybe they're not familiar with editing, or it would take them 2 years to learn to edit and afford all the equipment that I possess and that. But if someone came to me and said, could you make clips for me? I'm like, but it's not my content, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't choose for you because it's your project. Yeah. But I provide the service that delivers the project, right? It'd be like Stephen Bartlett delegating to like his editor to be like, pick out this, and this. I'm sure Stephen's heavily involved in.
Of course he would.
That's what entrepreneurs and CEOs and that do.
Exactly.
Right? Like,
that's where they spend their time. Yeah. On that sort of thing. But people that are not passionate about the stuff they're doing are,
Yeah, it's kind of like, when people, and I've done this myself to be fair, so I'm not like trying to judge anyone. But when like we get to like New Year and they're like, we've got a New Year's resolution, go to the gym. Yeah. And then you get over that first week and you're like, I might address this next year instead.
Yeah. Well, the sort of rule, like the unwritten rule in the gym is that don't go between the 1st of January and the 19th because it is packed. Yeah. After the 19th, everyone's given up and it just goes back to normal.
Yeah. I remember like, because I was discussing with you, I used to be like very, very like overweight, and I'm like no athlete now, don't get me wrong, but like, I mean, sitting down and recording people as a living has definitely not aided that. Yeah. Especially until late in the evening. Well, I've got to like eat like 9 o'clock at night, which I don't. Anyway, another story for another podcast probably. But like I remember like being there in December when I was going to the gym and like losing weight and stuff, and it was me and just one other guy, which was a bit. A little bit weird because we both knew we were there. Yeah. Had absolutely no communication, but it's like that's kind of when you know who's going to stick around, basically. Like you said, January, I think it's because it's the start of a new beginning, and there's like I have a love-hate relationship with Christmas because I don't know if it's the same with you. I'm big on momentum.
I'm exactly the same.
Like,
I only realised it this year, though, because I was thinking to myself, I really do not want to celebrate New Year. I want to hide in my office and just pretend it never happened, because I hate having to think, oh, now we're starting over. It's a new financial year. It's new spreadsheets. It's new this. It's just, just keep the flow going.
Yeah, I love it in the sense of like Christmas Day feels like nothing matters, and that is like a very like big deflating ball of pressure in my mind that just gets put away for the day. But when we get sometimes I over enjoy that. Like I quit drinking for about 15, 16 months. So I will be having a beverage this year. But I tend to I tend to take Christmas Day into like New Year like most people, and then it gets to like January 3rd or 4th and the holidays are officially over, and you're like, I wish that had never happened, because now I'm like struggling to adjust back to like we need to get back up to 100 miles an hour. So like I probably should find the balance of that a little bit better. But
just drop down to like 60.
Yeah,
and then keep going. Cruise control.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, something like that. I don't
Coasting.
So yeah, to conclude that, podcasting isn't hard. Being consistent is, and it's the same with all forms of business, content creation.
Yeah,
doing the thing is not the difficult thing. Doing the thing when you don't want to do the thing is difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. Like,
but it's what compounds over time.
Yeah, like I mentioned, one of the main guys that comes in here, Lee. The amount of times I've seen someone start something up because they're watching what he's doing, and they'll be asking me this and this and this. And don't get me wrong, again, totally approachable. I'm not expecting someone to come in and be like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. Like, I'm happy to kind of have consultations with anyone and like discuss how you get off the ground, because I think starting's the biggest hurdle, to be honest. You know what I mean? Like getting over that first one, and then like you say, keeping that routine, keeping that momentum, and suddenly it becomes part of anything. It is like exercise. It is like getting your morning coffee. You keep doing it, and then it just becomes natural, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about the business behind running a podcast studio. So talk me through the business model. How do you price it?
So when I started, right, I was very much well aware that it was, like I mentioned with Stephen Bartlett earlier, he's going to be paying one guy, well, not one guy, but he's paying someone for a specific role for that sole purpose of whether it be editing or, producing in terms of maybe reaching out to guests, et cetera, et cetera. I know that I can't do that here, right? Because there's not like some big CEO that's wanting a podcast done up here. If there is, please get in touch. But,
I'm sitting here.
Yeah, well, maybe in years to come. But I knew it was going to have to be more, I don't want to say spread out, but I knew it was going to have to be multiple clients on top of multiple clients for that to, transcend into something. But I was also aware that obviously, especially in this environment, there's a lot of like valuable equipment in here right now, right? And that costs money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But at the same time, I was saying that I've seen studios further afield that will charge £200 an hour and stuff like that, but I think that is for a specific client base, right? They've identified big businesses that are looking to do stuff in here, and I wanted to make sure that I could reach a very wide, from people that had never done a podcast before to people that are wanting to use it to maybe promote a business or something like that. And I wanted to like have a broad range of what I was going to do. So I wanted to balance it between accessibility, but also enough for me that I feel like my work's being valued at the same time, right? Because like that's the thing. Like a podcast isn't just a one-time thing.
No.
You know what I mean? Like
it's a recurring business model.
It's a recurring thing, right? So a lot of people tell me like, when they inquire and stuff like that, it's like, oh, that sounds really reasonable. Well, you get the other end as well. I actually had a guy that was like, he emailed me one time and he was like, how much would it be to use your studio? And I was like, well, it depends. I was like, are you going to be doing the editing? Am I going to be doing the editing? How long for, etc. And then he was like, oh, for me to do the editing. And I was like, well, I'm only doing half the job of recording it. So then, I gave him the prices, and then he was like, he came up with something else. Like, I was like, it's not a negotiation now, do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, it's either that or like you just don't use the place. But a lot of people tell me like, oh, that's really reasonable. And it's like, yeah, because I want you, it's not a one and done business model. It's a recurring business model. And that's important.
It's the same with what I do. Like, I'll get emails, someone asking how much for a website. It's like, you wouldn't take your car to the garage and say, how much to fix my car, without the mechanic coming in, looking under the hood. Because If they don't, they're just unethical. I can't just give you a price because I don't know what you want. I don't know what kind of business you're in. I don't know what size of website you want. If you want a booking system, if you want e-commerce, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I want to try and be flexible to people's budgets.
Absolutely.
I'm not going to tell you it's one price when you have just told me you can only afford this. Let's make it work for this.
Yeah, like you said at the start of the year about when you start focusing more on what you can deliver for people, money naturally flows after that.
That's
whereas
it.
you start focusing too much on like
The money.
how much can I charge this person, I think that scares people off more than anything because it's a tough economy out there. Do you know what I mean?
That's it. You need to serve people before you even contemplate selling to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
Serve them, do a good job by them, send them an invoice that's going to work for them.
Yeah,
that's it. That's
absolutely.
business.
Yeah.
Anything beyond that is just not very nice.
And the relationships that you build in business is important.
Exactly.
Like if you treat people not so well, that's going to get that's going to get round as quick as if you treat someone well. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Especially
it works both ways.
Areas like this, like
that are so small. Yeah.
You know, word of mouth is,
huge.
It's probably still competing with social media, to be honest.
Up here,
right?
100%. I think it's arguably more powerful up here than social media.
Yeah.
I've had more clients from word of mouth than social media here.
Same.
But yeah,
I do get like more one-off stuff through like social media and stuff where people, because that is one thing I've found surprising. I've had like people come in that are maybe passing through or they're up on holiday and like they want to do a podcast for the business down south and they're doing it via remote and stuff like that. So that's something that, but those aren't recurring clients. That's like total one-offs,
Yeah, the way I see it is a client will become a friend sooner than a friend will become a client. And it's so true.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do most clients come in knowing exactly what they want, or do they need that sort of guidance from you?
It's a bit of a mix. Like I was saying to you, it's a little bit different with you, right? Because obviously you do your own editing and stuff like that because you've got experience with the Cinemalist stuff back in the day and what have you. So I think you had a pretty good idea of why you were doing this to begin with, right? Maybe like it'll evolve over time and stuff like that. But I think you had a good kind of foundation. A lot of people maybe have an idea, but they need it fleshed out. Some people are just interested in doing it and don't have an idea and feel like, is there any point of doing it without an idea, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's different approaches for different mindsets. And I think it's just important about looking at people and being like, look, there's no... If someone's... I would even say to people that are like, what if I fail after one? It's like, well, at least you gave it a go.
Yeah.
Come and find out, at the very least, you know what I mean? But people that I notice that are very driven and know what they want to do straight off the bat, it's very like clockwork. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're here and then you're out, and then other people that are like that are in here and they're out, and then they'll send me timestamps and all that. And then there's people that have had to grow into that, and then there's people that I'll speak to constantly about stuff for a long period of time. But I enjoy because it's different experiences, isn't it? Like, do you know what I mean? Like. I think variety is the spice of life, is a cliche as a saying as it is nowadays. But, I enjoy, because no 2 days are the same, right? Like, I know that when you come in, it's like, we'll have a bit of a blather beforehand.
Yeah.
You'll do your thing. And then I need better internet. That's the one thing that, like, if OpenReach are listening to this, that's my one gripe. But it would usually be like something like Google Drive in a normal set of circumstances. But just given the Wi-Fi's location at the moment, it's like you stay behind 15 minutes at the end and take the files with you.
Yeah, transfer it
and
over,
then, when you're out the door, it's kind of like the next time I'll see you is when you're doing a next episode, where people that are getting me to edit it, there's all kinds of conversations, like, and I don't mind like giving advice on like what people maybe think's appealing. I wouldn't tell someone what to clip out of their own podcast, like I said.
No.
But I think it can be hard to identify at first, right?
Especially if you have literally no experience. Obviously, I watch podcasts.
Yeah.
So I know kind of to a rough extent what would actually be interesting for someone to hear in short form.
And just even the way you design it, right? Like, everyone's got kind of different brands of subtitles and stuff like that, but I do like the way that you do yours, and like Diary of a CEO, where like it's kind of like, not stacked on top of each other, but it's almost like they're coming down like horizontally rather than the vertical kind of stuff. So, and that helps creating like a style and a brand for yourself, for your own stuff. You know what I mean? There people look at, like you mentioned Hermosi. There's tons of YouTube tutorials on how to get the Hermosi subtitles, right? Yeah. So he's just recognizable literally from his subtitles, yet alone all the other stuff that he's offering with his own kind of personal brand and stuff. So, yeah.
Super important to have that that branding element
Yeah,
to your
and
videos and figuring out that style. And it evolves over time.
it keeps it fun as well, because there's, you know, there's a creative element to this, no doubt. You know what I mean? Like, if you're not enjoying it, then it's probably not going to work out either way, because you're not going to have that fire to keep it going and doing all the other fun stuff that comes with it. You know what I mean?
That's exactly it. So let's talk about why businesses like myself at Nightingweb should start a podcast. Who should be podcasting and who probably shouldn't?
It's an interesting question, because I do think it depends on personality, I think, a lot of the time, right? Like, you're very driven, and I think you're going to be driven behind whatever you put stock into, right? Whether it is, you know, you've seen it with the cinema list. I know you say it's not really your thing now, but when you were doing it, even your YouTube stint with the mountain biking, so whatever you've kind of done, you're very driven in what you're doing.
All in on that
and
one
I think,
thing, sort of.
I think like podcasts are almost like businesses within themselves these days, right? So I think when people kind of get bitten by that bug, you know, they're like, right, I've spoken to this person. What does the next 3 years look like? What does the next year look like? Et cetera, et cetera. So those types of people, I think it is pretty much like the perfect mix for them. And then people that I remember hearing they used to do like a podcasting course at Aberdeen College, I believe it was. Believe it or not, like I don't think they do it now, which is so strange, because like it's like probably the most popular form of media
at this
in current day times. But I remember on the trailer for it, they said something along the lines, whether it's you just having banter with your mates, promoting a business, and there was a bunch of other reasons, like, you know, and it put it into context like so well, of like, it's not like a one size fits all thing. Yeah. But I think what I've seen, this is the dynamic that I would never do, right? Or that I don't encourage. I've seen people come in here where there's two people. There's one person that really wants to do it. The other person's kind of there for the ride. That's never going to work.
It's never going to work.
It's just never going to work.
But that's sometimes how I feel with my guests, because a lot of them don't actually have any interest in podcast, but they're so interested in what they do, and I want to interview them based on that. Yeah. Yeah.
And they're probably happy to come on and talk about what they're passionate about, right? Of course, yeah. But not be like, I'm gonna, whatever they're talking about. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, but I think someone that's so desperate to do it, but they need someone else to be there, you need to let that go.
Yeah, you need to be. I think when it comes to like podcasting, you need to be all in as well, like it's a business, because it is.
Yeah, like, well, to be fair, like in my own experience, that's kind of how like my own one kind of evaporated in the end, because like, you know, I'd me and my co-host wanted to speak about different things.
Yeah. You know? And that's not what you want.
Yeah, pretty much. And then
I'd love to do a podcast one day where I talk about like philosophical things.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
not
what
just
got,
business.
You know, my kind of first iteration of like podcast was probably, I think it's been on the go since like 2004 in like the audio setting, but I think obviously the biggest one in the world that kind of created this phenomenon was the Joe Rogan Experience in 2009. 100%. And like, I personally don't listen to it now just because I think it's kind of went overboard.
It's a bit weird, some of the stuff. Yeah, do you not have like Donald Trump and stuff on it?
Yeah, before the election and stuff. And I'm like, it's kind of, But I remember like 10 years ago, it was like him, and he started out speaking to his mates. Now, obviously, he's a comedian, right? So it's not like they just were sitting in a McDonald's one day and thought, should we start a pod? That is kind of how mine started. But aside from that, you know, he went from that to talking about really like interesting philosophical stuff.
Deep I remember stuff, yeah.
There's one like 10 years ago with him and Duncan Trussell, and I'll never forget it, where, because, you know, I would listen to it while going out for a walk with headphones and stuff like that, and it, you know, Rogan's ones are like 3 hours, 3 times a week. Like, that's whatever I think about the content now, I admire the concentration to do that week after week after week, whilst he's got like other stuff going on as well. But I remember they were just talking about like, I think it was something to do with like Joe Rogan had never met his dad, or his dad had kind of been out of his life, and I kind of related to that because I've had like troubles with like the relationship with my father and stuff like that. And they just went, I can't remember it word for word, but I just remember at the time it being like a big thing. I was like, wow, that impacted me in like a big way. And then it became like, you know, he would have people on that would talk about like science and different like new ideas and stuff like that, and that was all really cool. And then he got the big Spotify contract, and I think, to be fair, I think he kind of got attacked a little bit for some views, and that kind of radicalized him a little bit further, which, you know, I don't agree with as well. But Yeah, he was definitely the forefather of what we all now see with
Podcasting.
Yeah.
How do you think about ROI, return on investment, when it comes to podcasts? So someone like me coming in here spending money on this, when am I going to get that money back?
Well, in the early days, I would encourage people not to think about it because I think it can kind of dominate the thinking and then take the enjoyment out of it.
Of course.
But I think realizing that, again, the world can be black and white sometimes, and I think there's a lot of grey areas in the middle, right?
I think especially being autistic, the world is very black and white.
Trust me, tell me about it. But when people talk about return of investment, obviously you've got the YouTube and Spotify are now there as well. And to be fair, with Spotify, you can tell that they have realized that because Spotify and Apple Podcasts were the place to go for podcasts, right? And then YouTube was its own video thing, and it felt like they didn't conflict. And then Joe Rogan came along, the podcast became video podcast and became big. They actually made a video player on Spotify to get Rogan over there. And then that became available to others. And then YouTube kind of seen that and were like, right, we're going to put our kind of stock into, because these are competing companies, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know yourself how long sometimes it can take to upload a video and stuff like that. I'm dying for Spotify and YouTube to connect. You know how like you can upload a Spotify one and that audio will upload to YouTube?
Yeah.
I'm dying for them to do that with the video as well.
Oh, I know, it's so annoying. It only uploads the audio.
At the same time, they're competitors and they probably don't want to like benefit each other like that.
Yeah.
At the same time.
But they should, because at the end of the day,
everyone wins.
Some people listen on YouTube, some people listen on Spotify.
Yeah, well, that's why when people are like, "What should I put it on?" I'm like, "Everywhere."
Everywhere.
Because people like, if you've got an iPhone,
you're gonna listen on
Apple Podcasts is probably what they're going to listen to. If you subscribe to Spotify or if you prefer YouTube, everyone's got their own taste.
Just put it on everything.
So yeah, the broadest range to catch the most attention, right?
I put it on Amazon Music recently. Or Audible. What is it? Amazon.
I think they do both now.
All right. Well,
one
of the Amazon things.
Audible was like audiobooks and stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I put it on one of the Amazon things. I don't think I've had any listens yet. But it's good to have it there. Some
Absolutely,
people might,
you never. I mean, here, if it comes across one person and they're like, "I'm going to explore Nightingweb," that's worth it, isn't it? And it's not like it's charging you to do like
it's free.
Post on
so
anywhere,
just get yourself out there as much as
possible. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah.
What's a better goal when it comes to podcasting? Downloads, clips, or good conversations?
That's a very good question because I think the answer, you could make a good case for every single one.
You could.
Yeah, but I think
I would want to see the conversations.
I think from like your own kind of, because from a monetary standpoint, the clips and the downloads and stuff are obviously going to be a bit for like.
But if you're not having a good conversation, you're not going to have good downloads.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all connected, isn't it? Like I think as well. Like I don't know about you, but whenever I used to do like I'm trying to remember one. I think I spoke to a lady that broke a world record one time for mine, and it was a really good conversation. And like I think she lived in Saudi Arabia for a bit, which I hadn't even thought about and stuff. But anyway, when she kind of, I think it was done via remote. So whenever that, Zoom or Google Meets or whatever it was done, I remember just leaving and thinking like, I had like a real bounce in my step. Do you know what I mean? I was like, that was really good. And like, just stuff as simple as that can like inspire and motivate you in other areas of your life. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that I was going to be like, I think it was, she flipped a tire the most times ever. Like I had like big tractor tires. Yeah. So I wasn't necessarily going to be out doing that, but like it
inspires you to make you realize like anything truly is possible.
People are fuel, aren't they? Like, like you always look up to someone.
To someone.
Yeah, whether it's in your own circle or whether it's someone you follow or, so.
I think it's good to meet these people in real life though and have people like in person.
True.
Powerful. Because on social media, sometimes you can think, oh, that's maybe fake or whatever. Whereas if you're seeing them in person, and they've got, for example, if it's a physique you're chasing and they've got that physique, or if it's supercars and they've got the supercars, or if it's a good business, a big podcast, and you see them in person, it's so different to seeing them on the internet.
Energy's just different as well in person, isn't it?
Of course.
Like,
it can't compute through social media.
Like people, I do have options to do remote stuff here and that, but I would always encourage if someone can, like obviously if someone's living down in Glasgow, I understand that they're not going to be making the journey up here to.
Yeah, I have thought about doing some of them virtually, but I prefer it in person. I guess the audio quality is going to be better.
Yeah, for sure.
As opposed to having them on Zoom and the risk of internet.
Yeah. Yeah, we do have ways around that as well with like Wi-Fi boosters and stuff. But I get what you mean.
Yeah.
I think if it's like if you've got like a really big guest and they're like in London, like I think it makes sense.
Yeah, of course. But I'm
But,
not just
like-
going to take some random who's in London
yeah,
who there's someone up here doing the same thing as them.
yeah,
You know,
100%.
if it was someone like Stephen Bartlett, jump on Zoom right now.
Yeah. Stephen, you don't pay for a plane to get us down there.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got enough money, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's talk about growth, mistakes, and the future of the podcast studio before we get on to the quickfire round.
Okay.
So what's been the hardest part of building the Lighthouse Podcast Studio so far?
I've been a bit of my own enemy at times.
Yeah.
I've became too fixated on like how do I get. So I'm quite ambitious in the sense of like I'm very like nerdy when it comes to tech and stuff like that. Like before I had like the Shure microphone, where you see on every YouTube video podcast and that. Like I had these pod mics which are great, and I still use them for like on location stuff and that now and again. But there was part of me in the back of my mind, I was like, I need the Shures. Do you know what I mean? And I think there was a guy on Facebook Marketplace in Inverness I got one from, and yeah, there was a negotiation and a half, but we got it done. But I totally can agree that I've become too fixated on that, and I've neglected some kind of marketing opportunities and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? Where certain elements of society in the area probably don't even know my business exists. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like let's just and that's something that I need to work on. It's something that once January 2026 rocks, I'm not trying to say that I'm doing the whole gym mentality thing, but I'm definitely going to devise a strategy for that, because this year was all about I need more space. Like, you'll know yourself behind the camera, like with tripods and light stands. It was very, very claustrophobic. This is a lot more relaxed now, and that's important for clients because atmosphere is everything, right?
Of course, yeah.
If
You don't want people coming in and feeling a bit uneasy. by
especially because
clutter.
the equipment's going to be intimidating first and foremost to begin with, isn't it? Like you walk in and you think maybe it's a dictaphone, and suddenly there's half an STV TV van in here, and you're like, oh, what's this about? So yeah, that is stop putting that off and getting, I'm very kind of like tunnel visioned. If I'm going, like I just said to myself, I'm going to upgrade the cameras this year, because I'd seen a video on Blackmagic cameras, and I was using the video switcher, which is Blackmagic. I've switched to DaVinci Resolve recently, which is also Blackmagic, and I kind of got a bit hyper focused on getting them, and I've probably neglected marketing and that duties this year, which is something that definitely needs to take the forefront next year.
That's good that you realise it.
Yeah,
because a lot of people don't. They just continue to run around blindly, and then give it 2 years, business has failed. Yeah. Alex Hormozi always talks about, you do not have a customer problem or a business model problem. People just don't know who you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can never do enough marketing.
Yeah. And I even, like, to be fair, like doing this, like I don't insist on like doing anyone's podcast, but I've been asked twice now, yourself and someone last summer, and sometimes I can get in my own head, like, do I really want to charge someone to come in here and talk to me? But it's also important because it helps people understand a little bit who I am, what I'm about. Yeah. It shows a little bit of my personality and stuff like that, for better or worse. But
of course,
yeah.
Is there any big mistakes that you made early on in the business itself?
Yeah. I was one of those people that was like, if I'm not going 100 miles an hour to begin with, like if I'm not seeing like triple the results that I was actually getting in the beginning, then I should get down about that. And that theoretically held me back in some areas as well, because I would start thinking to myself, do I want to keep doing, like, just irrational thoughts and stuff, you know? We all have them and stuff like that, but I let it consume me for a little bit in the beginning. And then I put too much into, I was very black or white. It was very reactionary. I would be frustrated at a period, and then I would do really well. And then that would dip, like dips and peaks and troughs go in business. And then I would get down again because I'm like, I'm not back there. I should be hitting there consistently, and it's just not reality. So in terms of my expectation, having like a clear kind of mind throughout it all, I definitely let the emotions get the better of me in the beginning. So that would be the biggest mistake.
I think we need to, in business especially, is separate emotions completely and just use the logical part of your brain.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because a lot of people get really hung up on the emotional side of it, and it can be difficult.
Yeah,
to make such decisions.
Humans are emotional beings, aren't they?
Of course.
So
to switch that off is sometimes difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's just like, I'm someone that's always had like a bit of a struggle with letting things go. So when I ruminate on something, it's like it never fixes the problem.
Of
Do you know
course.
what I mean? It just like
Just
but-
makes it worse.
Yeah, so like like you were saying there, like it's good at realizing and that, but I don't beat myself up for it.
Yeah.
I don't go, what could I have done if I had done that? I'm like, no, I realize it now. Let's address it.
And let's do better in the
Yeah,
future.
and there'll be something next year that I'll have probably neglected, and so on and so forth. So yeah,
It's just life. It's just the way
that
life
and the
works.
light stands that came with the lights to begin with, because they nearly fell and broke multiple times.
Nightmare. Now you've got them attached to the
Yes,
wall,
now I've got them attached to the wall.
which is great. Ryan, what's the long-term vision for the studio? Do you want more studios, more services, or do you just want to stay focused?
The more studios one's interesting, because Sean McAngus from the Press and Journal asked me that like very early days, and I was
On a podcast or like on the news article?
So I asked him to come on my podcast. Funnily enough,
I asked
and
him to come on mine.
He responded saying, "Would you give me a story about the studio?" And I was like, because this is something I've had to learn with as well. Even though that I've done a podcast myself with video and stuff like that, like I was like, I don't really want to do a Press and Journal story. But then I realized, no, this is important. You know what I mean? Get yourself out there. Do you know what I mean? Put your
Yeah.
ego to one side. Like, no one's probably going to say anything bad, and if they do, like it's the internet. That's unavoidable. Do you know what I mean? And it's not a reflection of my character as a human being if they do. So I did that, and then there was a wee write up about the studio, very early doors. Thank you very much, Sean. But he asked about multiple studios, and because it was like really early days, and like it's still, to be fair, it's like what am I, 18, 24 months and something like that. It still is very early days in my mind. I do always like hesitate to say yes, but like I'd probably be lying if I said no. You know what I mean? But whether it's an immediate thing or something very,
Yeah.
very long term, I don't know. But I don't want to limit myself to anything, because I'm very aware that when I was thinking, oh, that's ridiculous, like asking me something like that, that's me limiting myself. Because who knows? Maybe I will, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just about, getting the multiple studio thing. It's not like a primary focus of mine at the moment. I want to consolidate and build what I have, and then we'll look at branching out after that. And I think that's a pretty responsible way to go about it, I hope.
Definitely, for sure. Again, there's no one way of doing life, and there's no one way of doing business.
Absolutely
I think if
not,
you're
no.
following the blueprint that someone else has laid out, then you're living their life and
Yeah.
not yours.
There was 2 other ones in there as well, weren't there, in that question? Or was it just the...
No, it was just the long-term vision.
Oh, yeah,
more
the
studios, more services.
long-term
What's
vision
the
is
crack?
to like... I sound bad saying this, but I want to compete with like media companies.
Yeah.
Because like, is it like, I think people, that's what I'm trying to like not drill into people. I sound like a drill sergeant there, do I? But I try to say like, why can't, maybe a podcast, maybe something different, but you're a media platform.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I know like it's overused, independent media and all that stuff now, but it is. And I think to myself, like, I deliver a good product. Like I've got a very good setup. The audio usually, well, no, it does sound good.
Of course.
The cameras look amazing and stuff like that. That I want to deliver the best product every time, and I'm motivated to do that over and over. That's where I have fixated on the cameras and stuff. So there's a good and a bad side to
Of course,
fixating
yeah.
on some
'Cause
stuff.
You're always getting it the best for your customers.
Yeah, and like when I'm editing stuff, which is like my element, like when I see something and I just get that color grade dialed in,
Yeah.
and then like I click export, and like I go get a coffee because it's going to take 5 minutes. That is like the best feeling on earth for me, especially when
It
it's
is
like
good.
when it's like a big recording. Because there's some like where like there's been some really notable people in here, and I've been
Yeah.
a bit tense. I'm like, even though like I'm not speaking to them myself or that, I'm like, I need to make a good job of this. But yeah, just to keep building bigger, better. Every positive connotation that I could put in there. That is, do you know what I always do? I always actually go into producing an episode of a podcast thinking it's the last time that I'm going to do it, because I want to take everything in. Because I never know how long. I'm hopefully going to do this for a long time yet, but you never know. And I always want to try and be present when I'm doing this. Because back in the day when I would get frustrated and stuff like that, I would let that cloud. Because why did I start this? Why did I get interested in this? Because I enjoy it, and I want to keep that going. Because if I lose that, the walls of Troy would fall, I reckon. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Makes sense. Growth isn't about doing more, it's about doing the right thing for longer. That's it.
Yeah.
let's get on to the quickfire round.
Let's do it.
Very quick questions, I expect. Very quick and short answers.
Sorry. Yeah.
Just for these.
One word, yes or no.
Yeah, yes or no. True or false?
Yeah.
Best podcast you've ever recorded in the studio. True or false?
I've got to admit, it would have to be
Mine.
aside from yours, one that I edit myself. It would have to be the football journals with Colin Hendry, because he was the last World Cup captain for Scotland, and I remember him playing when I was a kid, so that was pretty surreal.
Yeah.
And he's probably one of the top 5 most famous people from this area ever. So to have a wee chat with him and that before the recording started and stuff, that was pretty massive. Yeah, that would be the biggest one.
Yeah, that's pretty cool, to be fair. What's the most nervous guest you've ever had? I don't mean give me their name, I just mean describe what they were doing.
I remember, so I always kind of preface with said, apologise to people, because I'm like, you are going to hear from me, pull that mic closer to you about 35 times. And there was one guy that you could tell was so nervous about getting that right, because I'm very insistent on it, because like, it might sound a bit kind of over the top, but the difference between this and this is very different. And I remember this guy kept like touching the mic and bringing it closer, which, you know, was in my element, because like I want him to be thinking about it, but I didn't want it to dominate his thinking, because I want people to enjoy their time in here. So there was a little bit of me that was like, instead of like pull that mic closer, or maybe like explain it a little bit longer beforehand and make people feel more at ease. So yeah, I feel
just
bad.
Switch off your autism and be less blunt.
Pretty
I'm
much,
exactly
yeah.
the same. Like customer service, I find so difficult
Yeah, well, like,
because I have to like explain a whole thing and be so like slow about it. Whereas I'm
Yeah.
so blunt and straight to the point. It'll just be do this, this, this. Kind regards, Archie.
I feel like if I go on longer, I start getting nervous of whether I'm making sense.
Yeah. Sometimes I feel that way too. So the most nervous guest you've ever had was just like messing around with a microphone.
Yeah, and then there was one that just didn't understand the concept of getting close to the mic. So I don't know if he was nervous, but that was annoying.
Yeah, I can imagine. What's one mistake new podcasters always make, other than the microphone thing?
Yeah. They are trying to base it off of something they've seen.
Yeah, so trying to replicate something.
Yeah.
Instead of being themselves.
Yes.
Makes sense. What's the best mic for beginners?
The Rode Pod mic. It's so the Shure SM7B, I think, retails at around about £380.
Okay.
So one of these
Is that what this is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A Rode Pod mic is not as good quality as the Shure SM7B, but it's not 4 times less.
Yeah.
The less quality, and a Rode Pod mic is, I believe, you can get it secondhand for 70.
Really?
Brand new, you can get it for 90.
Wow.
And they do a USB variant now where it can be used as a USB microphone as well. I think that's a little bit more expensive, but they're very versatile and they're small. You can take them away and stuff. So yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah.
Video podcast or audio only? I know we already covered this. I know your answer.
Depends. Depends.
Okay.
I think if you're doing like a series on history, audio can work, because people are going to be listening on a bus journey, or, you know, a lot of people. Even I think
it's a fair point.
video is the best of both worlds, because people can still listen to the audio anyway. There's options to do that on, you know, Apple's only audio. Spotify gives you the opportunity to flick between both. But like, if you're doing like a video podcast where you're reeling out a story, you're really doing a YouTube video, and there might be a space for that. But I think you'd be surprised, like long form 3 hours. People are not going to watch a 3-hour video. They're going to maybe listen to information for 3 hours, though,
Exactly.
like an audiobook or something.
I think it's good to have both.
Absolutely, yeah. But I think for conversations, video.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Better, yeah.
I would have maybe given you an answer a year ago, but I think, yeah, video is definitely the way to go.
I think if I was
doing
doing one on my own, I'd feel a bit awkward if there was a camera. Because then I would feel like I'm talking to a camera, which I am, but I'm not presenting it the way you present a YouTube video.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one piece of advice you'd give to someone who's starting a podcast tomorrow?
Enjoy it. And that sounds very kind of reductionist, doesn't it? Because like, so you should be enjoying coming in here anyway. But in that fear, that anxiety you have, surrender to it. Because you're trying to control something you can't control.
Yeah.
Surrender to it. See what happens. Maybe it does go bad. But at the end of the day, it's not going to be national news.
This is it.
If the worst thing happens and you're not able to form sentences together, which is very unlikely, right? Most people can talk, they just don't believe in their own ability to do it or put themselves down.
We're
with
all
it.
in our heads so
Absolutely,
much.
absolutely. So just enjoy it. Don't overthink it. There's no one listening to begin with. You've got to build that through consistency and all the other things that we've discussed. Relax. Be yourself.
Love it. And last but not least, who is the best web designer in Murray? I'm joking. That's not on it. Although I am curious about your answer here.
Well, I feel like this is becoming a bit of a common theme on this show, but my website wasn't designed by you, but we have had conversations, and that is another thing that I'm looking to get round to. But I'm very meticulous in the way that I do things. I have like time frames of when like I set things out.
It's like you've got a, what do you call it? Like a menstrual cycle.
Yeah, well, but like I'm just aware that like there's a time. And when the time's right, you execute. That's just been a big thing for me.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't want to promise you something that I might not then deliver on because I know how frustrating that is.
Course,
you know what I mean? So
no, it's completely fine. It was literally just
but like
a joke.
I know that from what I observe from you as a business person and as a human being, you're very driven to deliver a good product for people, and you're very good at what you do. Like I can say that from multiple things that I've seen you do. So whatever you kind of apply your attention to, you deliver a very high quality of product. So
I appreciate that.
The website thing does need attention, and most likely it will be you that will be doing that when that.
What do you mean most likely?
Okay, 100% it will be you doing that.
Yeah, I've got a question now from my previous
the
guest.
one that yeah.
If you could go forward or back in time, what time period or era would you go to and why?
I would go back to the 1990s because I feel like that was probably I mean, I was only like 3, 4 late 90s, do you know what I mean? Like but like I would go back as my age now then because I think it was probably the best social scene out there. And you had mobiles, but they weren't the computerization of mobiles.
They weren't as prominent as they are today.
There was a good balance. You could text and get in touch with your friends easier than previous generations, but it wasn't like, you know, your active status is on Facebook and, you know, like social media, like the amount of random things that I've shared on social media without even thinking about it, you know what I mean? Some of that I find funny, and I just think to myself, like, that was a waste of 5 minutes of my life. Do you know what I mean? And like
so
everyone falls into it. So, and I just think you know what it was? Like there was a lot of like hope back then as well. And I think at the moment, just because like there's a lot of like difficult things going on and
in the world,
tough times and that, everyone's like really downbeat and stuff. And I can understand it, but I just think there was something in the air in the 90s. If you go back and look at any kind of raves or parties or like
everything just looked better.
People were just enjoying themselves.
Even like 10, 12 years ago when I was like, I don't even know what age I would have been, like 8.
Yeah.
Life was so much better.
It was.
So much more colourful. And I think a lot of that is to do with this.
It is.
Because we're looking at someone that we perceive as real, and real life seems dull and dim compared to that.
Well, I think the most worrying thing about social media is that we've built an economy on triggering people and rage bait and all that type of stuff.
To boost this dopamine.
Because
it's like cocaine.
They know that the thing that's going to keep you on Facebook or TikTok or what, you know, insert whatever social media platform is something that gets you angry.
Like the cat videos I was talking
about.
Yeah. That isn't what builds a business.
You know.
But it keeps people it keeps people on the app, and it means they can then use that attention and sell it in the form of paid advertising.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And this is it. But I honestly firmly believe that social media and scrolling like that and the dopamine you're getting is just as bad, if not worse, for you than taking cocaine and the effect that has on the dopamine.
I actually agree with you. I think that I actually think it's going to be something that society is going to have to tackle in years to come, because I see it being
100%.
You know, I'm very lucky to be in a generation of where we were on the border.
Yeah.
You know, like these were coming, but we had like a childhood of where like that wasn't the only thing. Whereas you're now seeing kids today. I think I was 15 the first time I ever got a phone, and it wasn't.
I think it was about the same.
Yeah.
It was like this, but yeah, I always wanted a phone.
Yeah.
But I just never had one.
But I couldn't imagine being a kid and having a phone at 5 or something like that now. I think it would.
It's crazy when you see kids that are like 3 years old with iPads because the
Yeah.
mothers give them it to make them quiet.
Yeah, and that's because like some like parents are also distracted by devices. It's not just down to children, is it? Like,
Yeah, it's
and,
so
like,
messed up.
You know, your childhood, like for me, like there's so much silly stuff that happened in mine, but it's like some of the best laughs
Yeah,
that you look back on, and I hate the thought of people missing out on stuff like that because
they're glued to a screen.
Yeah,
It's not real. It's just these LEDs lit up in a
Yeah.
specific way to look like a picture.
although saying that, I am glued to a screen editing half the time now. So
Yeah, and I'm glued to a screen making
well,
websites.
there we go. Don't listen to us.
Definitely don't actually.
Learn from our mistakes.
My whole business is like building something that isn't actually a real physical thing.
Yeah,
It's a digital product.
yeah. We went down the wrong road. We should have went into arts and crafts or something.
Yeah. Next time.
Yeah, in the next life.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
When we're in the metaverse.
Yeah. Ryan, I appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I appreciate you for building a space that actually makes podcasting doable.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
If you're listening at home and you've thought about starting a podcast but keep putting it off, this is your sign. Book the studio, press record, well, let Ryan press record it, and stop overthinking it. And if you want a chance to be on my podcast, then head over to nightingweb.com/podcast to apply today. That's it for this episode, and I will see you in the next one.